Start out. Are all of our panelists here? Good. That's good. All right, so this panel is a general introduction to our themes for the day with an investigation into the relationship between coaching and caring. We're interested in discovering how the connections between sports organizations, parents, the community, faith-based groups, and those in need are made effectively. Journeying from the world of parenting to public policy, to disabilities, to global reach, to gender, to executive coaching, the panelists provide unique avenues to investigate this topic. This session will draw us from a generalist opening to the more specific themes of therapy and life skills later on today. So panelists, thank you so much for your work. And Cheryl, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here with you. I'm going to speak fairly quickly. 7 minutes is not a lot of time. I did put a PowerPoint presentation together. I'm not going to read from that presentation. I took the liberty of passing this out. I was going to do a picture montage also. I couldn't do the pictures and the words at the same time. So just capture some of the pictures on the little card that I brought with you. But I just wanted to, first of all, begin by picking up on a couple of things that were just said with regard to sports and adolescent children. And so one of the things that really resonated with me was the fact that, and you heard the baseball illustration, the fact that that boys do get to build personal identity through all of this, and also the team identities and that are built. But something else that jumped out that ties in a little bit to what I'm going to share with you this morning, and that is that newcomers are treated with suspicion. And I am from Philadelphia. I'm a fourth-generation Philadelphian. South Philly, thank you. You're in South Philly, in case you didn't. Okay, we play in the stadiums, and raise my children, who are fifth generation. And I will tell you that the fields that we ended up playing on, that we were considered newcomers, because Philadelphia has a real, especially with regard to baseball, it's really kind of turf-oriented and neighborhood-oriented, so that's all I'm going to say about that. I may kind of go back to that a little bit, and also this notion of sports being a community identifier. But I will also say, and I tried to illustrate that in a couple of the pictures, that sports is something that does overcome racial barriers. Okay, and that's a real key thing that I want to point out, because I heard that mentioned with regard to some of the research that that racism and even, I should say, sexism, being the female who was the one that, you know, I was the engine on this train in terms of, and I put this together like a research project. But that's why I think the faith aspect of it is so important. And I am a believer, and I did raise my children in church. And I'm going to say a couple things about that also as we go through. But I just want to stress the fact that parents really are. Parents are, you're the first coach, you're the first teacher, and then you take on all these roles as a child is growing up. The psychologist, the doctor or nurse, if you will, but even a teammate, because you're the, and I still find myself in that situation, kind of giving this additional encouragement as, and I refer to my children and I as being a team. We are a team, okay? We're going to do this as a team, we're going to accomplish as a team, and we will succeed as a team. But I think the one thing that I want you to take from this first slide is that the 3 A's will not fail you. Academics, arts, and athletics, if you stay focused on all 3 simultaneously, not one to the exclusion of the other, like I hear some parents want to punish children by taking away the sports or taking away, and the reason why I say arts, I have that up here. I'm a classically trained vocalist. My kids are also trained musicians. They're trained actors. I really did have an out-of-body experience doing this. Probably lost my mind a couple of times and didn't realize it. And that's where the faith comes in as well, okay? Because God will keep you through it all. God will sustain you. But it's only through that exposure that you get to what the God-given talents of the children are. And it may be at some point that the athletics may take a lesser role, but and I'm at 3 minutes already. But I will say to you that that you should not view athletics as the child going to be the professional athlete. that there are all kinds of careers connected to athletics. You know, there's accounting, there's sports law, there's sports medicine. Everybody needs a therapist. There's sports psychology. There are all kinds of careers. But the key thing is to tap into the passion of the child. And once you do that, and athletics is an excellent place to get that done. Once you tap into that passion, by the time that kid is in middle school, that child will know exactly what career. My son, by the time he was going into middle school, he knew that he was going to be a sports attorney and an agent. Now, it may help that I also, you know, have my law degree. I don't know. I may have like kind of stressed that too, but the point is he got it. And as they are building these networks through all these experiences and exposure, somebody out of the network will make it. I'm just going to quickly run through the slides real fast. That there's a philosophy, two philosophies. Should you just be the one sport, or should you expose kids to all sports? I had a conversation with Venus and Serena Williams' father when my kids were very young, probably only 6 and 8 or 7 and 9, because not only my kids were, I should say this quickly, they were downhill ski racers. They were former members of the United States Ski and Snowboard Association, dominated black and double black diamond mountains, and trained all over. Had a good conversation about Whistler, British Columbia, in that regard. But they were also on the circuit. They're members of the United States Tennis Association. They trained in golf. They trained in basketball. Did Sunny Hill John Chaney camps. They trained in football. They trained in racquetball, horseback riding. But baseball was what stuck, and baseball was also something that my own father played. So that's how I got exposed to baseball. And when I became separated and eventually divorced, I mean, I wanted to make sure that my kids, as African American males, would be strong in their own identity and would not kind of be subjected to the system or the street. So I really kind of front-loaded what I did with them. So the pros and cons, you're going to have to figure out yourself. I come down on the side of full exposure. Venus and Serena's father, who convinced me, no, you should, you know, the kids should choose the sport, stick with that sport, you front-load it. Real fast, because I'm down to 1 minute. The next slide just kind of talks about the dilemma that you find yourself. Everybody has an opinion in terms of how you should raise your kid. But the bottom line is that you are the expert. As a parent, you're the expert. You know the child better than anybody else going in, and then you develop additional expertise as you go along. You really have to do that, especially in today's society. So I just, you know, that's kind of a little bit of comic relief too, in terms of, you know, different responses you may get back from different people regarding, why are you doing that? I heard that all the time. Maybe you're doing too much. I will tell you that my son, who just sent me a message at 10:20 that he just landed in Florida, his team is in Florida for spring training, is being scouted by the Yankees. And when I say scouted, he has actually signed amateur draft documentation. He's projected to be drafted in June. The Yankees, the Mets, the Phillies, the Padres, the Pirates, and some others, the Braves, but you know, Yankees, the Braves, I mean, these are teams that kind of have their pick of the litter. They don't have to look toward a African-American child in South Philadelphia, but he has the tools and he brings it, and it's through all of this, you know, and I'm going to answer questions in Q&A. So my next slides just have to do with, and you can just glance on very quickly, the challenges that you're up against in an urban area. It's hard enough for any child to come from this area of the country and really compete on the level of NCAA, MLB, because we're seasonal here. You really do have to go out of your way to find opportunities in the off season, but you can do it. You can overcome barriers, and that's what the next slides kind of have to do with, is overcoming barriers, being intentional. I just want to quickly mention that there are some public policy ramifications. If you quickly just fast forward to that. President Obama right now has the National Fatherhood Initiative going on. He's got other mentoring programs he's talking about. But if you do this, this is your own in-house mentoring, okay? This is your own in-house solution to overcoming societal ills and addressing things like youth violence, obesity, other things that may catch your child. In the last slide, if you go to the very last slide, I just have a biblical verse there. Do what is in your heart. You choose. I'm right here with you, whatever you decide. And of course, we've heard about what sports do. I should also say to you that I'm a classically trained vocalist. I could have pursued a career in opera on the concert stage, and you know, you see my bio in there in terms of my other areas of expertise, but I was one of the people who listened to, well, yes, you know, you can be a musician, but you need to have something to fall back on. But I just made sure that the same thing didn't happen with my kids, and I think I've been fairly successful. I'm going to turn it over to the next panelist.
Just a quick comment that the PowerPoint slides will be made available. Cheryl, thank you so much for the richness of that presentation and giving us a lot of food for thought, and I know that we can follow up with questions and answers afterwards. Yeah. I'm sorry I started off with the order that was not printed in the bulletin, so thank you for going first. So let's resume that, and Farah, if you would then take us to the Philadelphia process.
I want to thank you. Also, I want to thank Allison. This is my second year presenting at the Symposium. My first full year was my team, so it's definitely been fun working with the organization and also Hans at Eastern University. This has definitely been insightful. So, Farah Daly, I'm the general manager for the Philadelphia Firebirds, and what Firebirds doesn't encompass, or what it doesn't say, so to speak, is that we are a women's semi-pro tackle football team. So we get out there and we hit like the guys. Well, I shouldn't say we, I don't hit. But yes, that's who we are and that's what we do. The Firebirds is an organization of women that come from all walks of life. We have students, we have teachers, we have PhD candidates, one in the audience, that's my book. We have basketball players that play at different universities. So we have a range of people that come to us. And the beauty of it is they all come to us for one thing, which is the love of football. This year, for me, has been an eye-opener. We have become a family. Well, let me take that back. They're a family, and I've joined, so I'm definitely felt accepted. The mission for the Firebirds is basically that we're coming together to empower women and young girls to do something different, to dream big, to go after whatever your goals are. And we have been successful with that. We've had players on our team that's been around for 6, 7 seasons at this point. Our players don't get paid to play. They pay to play. So with that alone, it lets you know the level of commitment of our organization and our girls that come to us. We are a community-based organization, and meaning we have 2 areas that we practice in. There's indoor season, we practice in West Philly, and then now that we're outdoors, we practice in Northeast Philly. But we practice in a local park, neighborhood park. And with that park, we see a lot of things. Our mentoring comes when we see the kids on the playground that's out there at 10 o'clock at night when we're practicing. Where you guys going, what you're doing, why you're not at home, why are you cursing, why are you saying derogatory things towards people. So we have those interactions with the kids in the park, and they see us and see what we're doing, and we get a lot of questions that we feel, you girls playing football? Yes. Actually, today we're leaving to go to do another community service event, which I'm excited about. It's Cradles to Crayons. And basically what we'll be doing is sorting and processing toys and clothes for inner city youth that will be distributed through that organization. I'm really excited about that. I put up a couple pictures of some other things that we've done over this past year. Well, let me back up. Sorry. The Firebirds, we're part of a independent women's football league. There's a couple different leagues, women's football leagues. People don't realize that we play, or there's women's football all over the United States. Our league has about 50 teams from the United States, and there's a team in Canada. Over our 9-year history, we've been 38-7, so it's one more than we lost. But we're doing better. We're slated this season to hopefully do big things. Our season runs in April, ends in June with our playoffs in July. That's a couple of our girls there. All right, so one community service event we did this year was with Jahari Evans, who is a New Orleans Saints player. And he does an annual football camp at Frankfort High School. That's where he graduated from. And we got the opportunity, and it was very last minute, but we got the opportunity to go out and work with a lot of the NFL players do a little mini football camp, and this was kids from all over the neighborhoods. There was a few girls there, which was absolutely amazing for them to see that there's, you know, they came to a men's football camp, didn't know we were going to be there. So that was really awesome to have the girls show, you know, what we do, and them seeing women's football up close and personal. But we had bowling party. Gotta have the kids come out, do a little face painting, got the kids together, families, friends, people in the neighborhood, but just giving back and showing that we are in the community, we use our resources, and we want to let them know that we're around. And then last thing, last year this time I got to meet AJ, which I saw him in the audience. Hi, AJ. AJ and I sat on this panel last year, and I was thoroughly inspired by his story and the organization that he works with. And he invited us to the Global Abilities Rec Fest last year. So the girls got up there, they did a couple of drills, talked to some people, and got a chance to meet and work with some amazing people. And there was a few coaches that were there that got a chance to work with the girls. So that was an amazing opportunity that we got to be a part of last year as well. So this year is really slated about us getting back into the community. The community starts at home. So with us building this organization, I've spoken with Allison about, you know, other opportunities that the girls can get involved in, but we really wanted to make sure we had our community and our closeness together so that we can be able to give back to the community. I still have a minute. All right, so okay, what else can I say about this team? The guys are great. I was out for a week. I've been really ill, so I was hoping I was going to make it today. I was a little nervous. And I was gone for about a week with the team, and I got back on Tuesday. And I realized when I saw it, my face lit up. I was thoroughly excited to see everyone that I was with. I mean, these girls are amazing. They are. They're dedicated. They come to practice. And this is 4 days a week. They practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They have classroom sessions on Wednesdays. And on Saturdays, they were working out. So this is 4 days, and we have moms. I mean, like I said, we have people that have a life, but they choose to still be with us 4 days a week. So I'm just thankful that I've been part of the organization and they're here with me. And we have about 8 of them in the audience, so we can talk to them.
Thank you, Farah. Next up is Jeffrey Harrison from World Team Tennis.
Good morning, everybody. Cheryl and Farah, thank you for setting such a great stage. You know, keywords, teamwork and community and giving back. And I've had the pleasure of working for Billie Jean King for the last 20 years. And those are the key aspects of her life, of community. But it's also very important about gender equity. And World Team Tennis, it's the only co-ed professional sport in the world where men and women are on the same team on an equal playing field. And that's something very important to Billie Jean's philosophy in life. Whether if you come to a World Team Tennis match, you're going to see ball boys and ball girls on the same court at the same time working together for a common goal. That doesn't happen in a lot of sports. And Cheryl talked about it you know, earlier on, empowering young women. Feeling sports is connected because guys have a little bit of an advantage. They're on a team a little bit earlier. They can high-five a teammate a little bit earlier. And one of the most powerful things Billie Jean tells me, and when I have the pleasure of hearing her speak, is for those of us that are dads in the audience with daughters, can I raise a hand, anyone that have dads with daughters? Bill, it's great. We raise our daughters differently than our fathers did if we had sisters. And that really resonates with me. And talking with Bill Roth a little bit in the back, there's a couple of girls who are gymnasts. We think differently on how to raise our daughters because there's opportunity for our daughters. Where 20, 30 years ago, there weren't the same opportunities without Title IX, without equal playing fields, without professional football for women. And so it really resonates when I'm out every day going to my daughter's basketball game at noon, 12:30 today. I'm going to my son's baseball practice at 1:30 today. And they're going to get equal time on an equal playing field for dad. Not one of them is going to get special treatment. And I think that's important how we view young women and actually to teach the boys as well, that boys and girls are on the same playing field when we go out on the court or in the classroom or in life. I've also had the pleasure of working with a variety of professional athletes favorite is Anna Kournikova. I put a couple pictures of it. It's not because, guys, you know, she's really good looking. I thought I'd get everyone's attention by putting Anna up there. What she's always said to me is, don't give me a guys' night, don't give me cigar night, and I'm going to come into the guys' night and have the guys, you know, Anna's here. Give me a group of kids, and I'll spend hours with them. And that's what she does each year when she comes in with us. She just wants kids. Don't put her in front of a men's night. Don't put her in front of the paparazzi. She doesn't want that. She wants to give back to youth and to kids, which I find is amazing. When you go through a lot of these professional athletes where they're on such a high stage that you think they don't give back. We mentioned these in Serena and what Richard's done for the girls. They both have foundations. They both make it a point of giving back. Andy Roddick, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal all have foundations which they give millions to and give back. Billie Jean also has a foundation, the Women's Sports Foundation, which empowers young women to be great. The interesting note is Andre Agassi, who's on that same level of icon level as Billie Jean, and his fundraiser makes 15 times more than Billie Jean, because the giving for men's sports, or for men in general, is about that ratio, 15 to 1. So I think as we're out there talking about caring and giving back and being part of the community, we don't forget the young women, the young ladies in the community for equal playing fields. We'll go to the next slide. And we talk a little bit about teamwork, tennis, and life. World Team Tennis is co-ed. It is about a team. There are 2 men and 2 women on every team. You can play it professionally, but you can also play it locally. I'm on a local World Team Tennis team. 2 men, 2 women playing for a common goal or a common theme. And the player in there is a young player by the name of Melanie Dan, played for Philadelphia last year. Melanie, you may remember the U.S. Open a couple years ago, made a strong run to the quarterfinals, and they're talking about her being the next Chris Evert, which I think she still has the ability to do. But she looks like a kid. She's the one in the visor to the right. She looks like a kid. She is a kid. And in our sport of tennis, you're put on a global stage. Really, you're hitting your prime by 2021. So you're really coming into the limelight when you're 16, 17, 18 years old. You're kids. You really are kids, and you're forced to grow up in a very adult world very quickly in our individual sport of tennis. I think that's why Billie Jean stressed team tennis is important. I'll tell you a funny story just about generations. Martina Navratilova, who's the legends of legends, played team tennis a few years ago where she was almost 50. There were a couple of young women on the team as well, 18, 19 years old. In awe of her, like, oh my gosh, I'm playing with Martina. And this is the dream if you're a young woman playing tennis, to be on a team with Martina. And Martina made it a point to mention them during the match, during practice. This is how I think you should be eating. This is how I think you should be working out. This is how I think you should be taking the time to mentally train and wind down. And someone like Martina who doesn't need to spend a lot of time. She's done what she's done. She's accomplished everything on and off the playing field. She felt it was important giving back. And I think that's important in team tennis. There's 3 generations of players, the young up-and-comers, the current players, and then we call them the twilighters. We don't want to call them the old farts, but especially not to Martina's face. They really know how, especially in individual sport in tennis, and whether you're a gymnast or you're playing golf, you need mentors. The team is a little bit easier because you have a coach, and you have teammates, and you have trainers. In individual sports, it's important to have mentors. And so if you're out there trying to get back, mentoring is huge. That's my spiel, Allison. And I have 30 seconds left.
You do.
But I will pass it on to Steve. You can have my 30 seconds.
For everybody to come out to watch World Team Tennis games and Firebirds games, and we'll encourage everybody to attend and go out. They're fabulous.
Thank you very much. Okay.
So far, the focus has been on people who participate at the very highest levels of the activity. And the reality for the vast majority of people is you participate for the joy of activity, and only the very special few who are talented enough, fortunate enough to make it to those highest levels. So part of what we're about is how to get people to participate. You hear so much about, you know, the sedentary culture and the kids, you know, and obesity and all the rest of it. Well, how do we move from spectator sport to participatory sport? How do we move from the notion of sport to the notion of activity, to really move it to the recreational realm? And part of what we want to do there is to help you begin to understand, and I think the easiest way is to just ask you to sit back for a moment and picture or imagine that you've been participating in a great many activities, but now you have a traumatic injury, or you have a birth defect, or you have a disease. And it's significant, and it significantly limits your ability to pursue the sport that has been a central part of your life. What do? You just had the rug pulled out and come under you. You know, how do you feel? What does your life become? And that's really the activity that we're organized around. That for a significant number of people, participating in activity puts you at risk of traumatic injury. Not everybody, but you know, some increase in it. And what do you do when that kind of thing happens? And that's what's really led to global abilities. And if you, I tracked the slides here, but we'll see whether we get to that first slide. Global Abilities is an organization, and I'm not going to read it to you. If we just get the first slide up there, please. That's what I need. Okay, the next one. Please. And that's what Global Abilities is designed to do. How do we deal with the people who have had some significant traumatic event? And how do we help them reintegrate into their society? I mean, if you think about it, you think about how many of the people who've had the traumatic event deal with issues of anger, issues of profound sadness, issues of loss. You know, you've defined yourself as a tennis player, you've defined yourself as a football player, you've defined yourself in any number of sports, and now you're defined as someone in a wheelchair, or you're defined as somebody who's had concussions and brain injury, and now you're limited, and you go through all this emotional turmoil, and it leads to a cycle. It leads to a cycle of social isolation. It leads to a cycle of depression. And somehow what we have to begin to think about is how can we use activity to break that cycle and re-engage people in all of the same things that the rest of us do and enjoy that adds to the richness of our lives. And that's really what we're about. In Philadelphia, that means RecFest. In other places of the world, it can mean other things. We do have an international component, and I'll talk a bit about that, but that's not the sports component. That's not the, and when I say sport, I'm not saying professional. I'm saying the activity component, the participation component. Well, if you look at RecFest, next slide please. RecFest is a day to engage people. You could read it, I don't have to read it. And last year we did our first on our own, and next slide please. And back one please. And it drew 500 people. And of those 500 people, what we were able to do is we were able to get them involved in activities that operate in a variety of components, if you will. We want activities that are culturally supported. We want to do things that people can see themselves doing, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of religion, but things that will be supported by their subculture. We want people to be involved in activities that are fun, so that they're self-sustaining. If it's drudgery, if it's work, if they do the activity and feel like a failure because they can't achieve, then it's not self-sustaining. So it has to have those two components. We want activities that have a social component. Because social isolation is such a critical issue, we want people to be in something where they begin to feel a connection to other human beings. And this means not only a connection to other human beings with disabilities, but it means a connection to people who are not disabled, because they're part of the human condition also. So we wanted to really blend and give people a chance. And we want activities that can be adapted so people can fully participate, rather than being forced to sit on the sidelines and watch and only participate through their fantasies. We want them to actually get dirty and do it. And rather than talk about it, let me show you some of the activities. So here we want people to understand the realm of the possible. And it's a little tough to see on the screen, but the one slide there is AJ, sorry, I'll hobble a bit. Here we have AJ, who's the founder of Global Abilities, out, participating in bicycling. Here we have John, who's one of the people who's on the planning group for the first time getting out of water skiing. I mean, imagine what happens if you've got serious physical disabilities, you're getting out there, but that's part of the adaptation. A double amputee who can play golf. Who thought you could ski with a walker? The point is, if you can do it, it's our responsibility as society to figure out a way to enable you to do it. And then here we have a group, martial arts in a wheelchair. Next slide, please. We want people to try things on. This is Marie Protesto. She's been quadriplegic for 20 years, over 20 years. We had people lift her into this tractor-like device. You say, what in the world is that? Well, think about if you want to be a hunter, if you want to be a fisherman, if you want to be, I don't know, fisher person, so I'm not gender. I don't know. If you want to be, outside hiking, this enables you to do it. And we built an obstacle course so people could not only get in it, but they could ride through the obstacle course and feel the freedom. Here we had tennis. Here we have kids playing quad rugby. We actually had people who were from the able-bodied community get in and play against and with, so that while it looks so easy and you say, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to run a little to get through the pictures. Well, you have people who say, oh, gee, that looks so easy, and they say, well, I'm able-bodied. Get in the chair and try it. And now who's the athlete? And it really changes perspective. And these, to me, are critical because we have a group there and we have a diving tank, and we actually take people, as long as they don't have an open airway, we put a wetsuit on them and we throw them in the diving tank. Now, imagine what that's like if you're a quadriplegic and you can't move any of your limbs, or you have very limited movement, and suddenly you're just like everybody else because of the buoyancy of the water. I can tell you that seeing 25 and 30-year-old men come out of the diving tank giggling like 8 and 9-year-old kids is something that I can't adequately express. Next slide, please. We want people to socialize. All of the activities are activities that get you connected. And the reason I say it's not just sport is I don't think of dance as sport, but it's activity. The idea of somebody being in a wheelchair and dancing. Next slide, please. And we want people to laugh and enjoy, and the looks on their faces tell it better than I can. Next slide, please. And lastly, we want people to be able to reach the challenge and to achieve. We don't want to protect people from their disability, but we want to offer the challenge. This kid, he's on a breather. He's on a vent. He can't breathe for himself, but that's not stopping him. He hooks it to the back of his power chair and still plays power soccer. Look at the looks. You know, here's a guy on a surfboard, quad, surfing. What's that worth? The look of achievement, that, you know, the first time. And that's what RecFest is about. For more information, you can go to globalabilities.org. AJ, we're going to have a table set up here. We'll talk to you about it. If you're interested in volunteering, we'd love to have you. And more importantly, if you know people, both able-bodied and people with disabilities, we'd love you to encourage them to come out and experience the realm of the possible. And I'm sorry I've run so long.